we're seeing midway through year 2, after getting benched, coming back, a resurgence to the guy that everyone loved coming out of Alabama and thought that at 5'10", 195 pounds or whatever he was, that he was going to be able to overcome it. And he did just that to about as good a degree as we've seen from him in his professional career on Sunday against the Chiefs. What have you seen from him specifically these past 2 weeks when he's really reached kind of this turning point in his professional career?
He's much more decisive, in letting the ball go. And I think you look at yesterday, he made 5 throws in that ball game that are wow throws, right? They're out on time, perfect touch, perfect location. He was changing up his pace yesterday, right? There were times where he was layering it. There were times that he was driving it. And to me, that's what you want to see is a passer of the football, not just a thrower of the football. So he looks more confident. He looks like he did at Alabama, moving around, sliding in the pocket, using his legs, throwing the football. But even on his incompletions, right? Like when you take into account, you're looking at everything. Even his incompletions were good, right? He's throwing the football away when he should be. He had 2 go balls down the sideline that were perfect throws that didn't come up with completions. But you talk about location, giving your guys a chance against press coverage one-on-one down the sideline. They were absolute dimes. So to me, I really like what he's doing. I also like, they had some creativity with what they did yesterday too. A lot of rub routes versus the man-to-man coverage, that Kansas City likes to play, and not necessarily just short, shallow crossing rub routes, right? You've got combinations with sails down the field, and he throws those really well. They had a great call to Adam Thielen on a little delayed leak route, like a little drag route that they had coming out of the backfield. He finds it. I thought Canales did a good job with that yesterday. So I think you're seeing. I think we're definitely witnessing, his kind of comeback story. Whether it's here in Carolina or it's somewhere else, I don't know what that's going to look like. But he's showcasing, if he can play like that consistently, he can absolutely be a starter in this league.
As a football player, particularly as an offensive lineman, we dealt with bull rushes a lot, and there's a point in a bull rush in which you're going to win or lose. And if you get your feet in the ground, you've probably heard this before, you got to hop to get your feet back in the ground. With Bryce Young sliding so far down the performance scale over the course of the last year and a half, for him to come out, have these 2 games, and we just saw that graphic, the only other 2 teams to put up these points against the Chiefs, Joe Burrow and the Bengals, Josh Allen and the Bills. So impressive, awesome for Bryce, and great for the NFL.
Yeah, a few reasons why I'm very excited about Bryce Young and think maybe he's not necessarily reached surefire franchise quarterback status like, the guy drafted after him in his class, but that I think going forward we will and have seen a different guy out of him is what he did against the blitz, and specifically the 4th down conversion I want to highlight to Adam Thielen. He reads cover 0. He brings in Tommy Tremble after he sees it to go block a defensive end that gives him just enough time to throw that anticipatory throw to Adam Thielen on the out, convert that, obviously go down and score. That's just stuff that he wasn't doing last year. Just the command that he has right now is so far and away better that, hey, starting to look like the guy we saw at Alabama. Let's get to CJ Stroud, though, because he's kind of gone the opposite way of late. Now, down some weapons, whether it's been Tank Dell maybe not looking quite like his rookie self after that gruesome leg injury he had last year, whether it's Stephon Diggs being out for the season, whether it's Nico Collins only just now getting back after missing a handful of weeks on IR. What have you seen from him to explain maybe some of his struggles in year 2?
Well, I think it's kind of the accumulation of hits he's taken throughout the year, right? Of it taking your toll on being decisive, having clean feet, and kind of letting it rip. I think, it's one of the hardest things. I think all of us as quarterbacks at certain times in your career, you struggle trusting the protection up front as much as you want to, right? As much as you want to play a new snap every down, and trust that the guys are going to win up front. You're going to handle certain looks the way you're supposed to. When you don't, and when the offensive line doesn't consistently, it creeps into you. So I think there's been a little bit of that. I think he's trying to be a little too perfect with some of the throws too. Where if you look at his misses in the last couple of weeks, a lot of them have been behind, and they haven't had kind of that typical pace that we've seen from him throwing the football. And to me, that leads to trying to be a little bit too perfect as opposed to just letting that thing rip. And so, I kind of think it's a combination of those. But this is reality in the NFL, right? If you're going to be a guy that plays 10, 15 years, in one spot, there's going to be ups and downs, right? And it's how you grind through those ups and downs. And I believe he's got the makeup to be able to do that. I said this to Kyle when we were talking yesterday, though. They're more than likely going to be the 4 seed in the AFC. In the first round, they're going to face a team that, in my opinion, is probably playing better football than them, whether that be the Chargers, whether it be the Ravens or the Steelers, right? They're only going to go as far as this pass game will take them. I like what their defense does. I like what Joe Mixon does in the run game. But if you're going to beat those kind of football teams, you've got to throw it down the field, and you've got to be on point. I think he needs to get back into rhythm. One of the things I would like to see them do is to use a little bit more up-tempo. And it's partly for CJ to cut some of that thinking out, see it, react, throw it. But it's partly, and Kyle, you can speak to this, to slow down pass rush, to simplify the looks that you're getting in terms of pass rush schemes, right? You're not going to get as many games of these big, long games going 3-man around that are difficult to pass off. You're going to get more rush, and you're going to fatigue guys on the other side. I think they need to start doing it now in preparation for what they're going to see in the playoffs.
God, that's such a great point, Matt. Going up tempo, not only does it help limit the defense's ability to prepare what their attack's going to be at the line of scrimmage, and that's a great point, but I was just thinking about, as an O-lineman, when you're up tempo, when the ball is moving, you're on the ball, quick counts, you don't think as much. You're just out there reacting. And to your point about C.J. Stroud being probably a little too careful with the ball, trying to place it, maybe some of this quick game will allow him just to cut it loose and be that naturally dominant quarterback we saw take the world by storm last year.